Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The big stories that we're tracking for you tonight. Anil Agarwal signals potential value unlocking at Vedanta after proposing a six-way split, promises to complete the sale of its steel assets this fiscal, claims a strategic partner is likely to be roped in for oil and gas, copper and the zinc businesses, plays down fears over debt, promises to honour all payments due in 2024. That's an exclusive. Oil marketing companies fear crude prices crossing $95 a barrel as they're already incurring cash losses. Industry sources say the under-recovery on a litre of diesel is now touching 10 rupees a litre, under-recovery on petrol near 2 rupees. HDFC Bank announces a major top management rejig, appoints new heads to retail and mortgage businesses, also appoints a new CEO for digital functions. A CNBC-TV18 analysis shows debt reduction is the main motivation behind a majority of the IPOs and not capacity expansion. 90% of IPOs to hit the Lal Street since 2022 have used part of the proceeds raised to reduce debt. Real money gaming companies get fresh tax notices worth at least 49,000 crore rupees from authorities in Mumbai. Dream 11 stares at a GST bill of 28,000 crore rupees in addition to the 18,000 crore rupees notice received earlier. Games 24/7 faces a tax demand of 21,000 crores. The World Bank forecasts India's FY24 GDP growth at 6.3% compared to 7.2% last fiscal, attributes the slowdown to a waning base effect and slowing global growth, but adds that India will remain one of the fastest growing major economies and see robust domestic demand. 31 patients, including 16 infants, die in the last 48 hours at a government hospital in Maharashtra's Nanded. The 500-bed hospital was reportedly treating more than 1,200 patients. State government forms a panel to investigate. The Delhi police raids several journalists and commentators working with media outlet Newsclick, registers cases under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act to probe the source of funding of the news website. The Editors Guild and Press Council of India say the raids are deeply concerning. Former CEO of BP, Bob Dudley, says he knew nothing about allegations against his successor, Bernard Looney. Also adds he was sad and surprised about allegations that Looney was promoting women colleagues with whom he had undisclosed relationships. 2 golds for India at the Asian Games today as female athletes continue to shine. Parul Chaudhary strikes gold in the women's 5,000 metres. Anu Rani wins gold in the women's javelin throw, taking India's overall tally to 69 medals, including 15 golds. Well, we'll get to the medal tally in just a bit, but let's get you the market tally for this evening. The Lal Street ended in the red after a range-bound session. The Nifty and the sensex were down about 0.5%, but the Nifty managed to stay above 19,500. Bank stocks declining today, but mid-caps did buck the trend. So that's the story as far as the markets were concerned. The sensex down 300 points, the Nifty losing 100, the Nifty Bank down 185, the mid-cap index closing in the green, as I pointed out, in what turned out to be an otherwise lackluster day of trading. In the oil market, crude oil prices fell over 1% after touching 3-week lows in the previous session. This on the back of a strong US dollar, somber global outlook and mixed supply signals. However, Brent is trading above the $90 a barrel mark, and that is a cause for concern. In fact, crude oil prices are taking a toll on oil marketing companies. Sources say that they are already incurring cash losses. The under-recoveries on diesel at nearly 10 rupees a litre. Sapna Das joins us now to take us through the latest on this front. Sapna, clearly a cause of concern for oil marketing companies. Take us through the under-recoveries for diesel and petrol today.
Well, industry sources are indicating that they are already probably incurring some cash loss on diesel. Particularly, we are given to understand that the diesel under-recoveries could be as high as 9 to 10 odd rupees a litre. And these under-recoveries could have been higher had it not been for the set-off available against the export cess and the good refining margins of OMCs. So net diesel is not looking good at all. As far as petrol is concerned, I think here the under-recoveries that are being indicated by companies is between 1.5 to 2 odd rupees a litre. LPG, there's no worry as of now, but prices are on the uptick and it's being closely watched by the OMCs. Now, the H1 for OMCs has been pretty cool till crude oil was trading at $75, below that, and then below 80 also. So that's going to help the companies cushion some of these losses that we are talking about. But if crude oil prices continue to be at $95 and above, and the upward range is not being ruled out as of now, then clearly it's going to be a concern, and somewhere this is going to impact the bottom lines of OMCs.
All right, thanks very much, Sapna. And speaking of crude oil prices, former BP CEO Bob Dudley says that the trajectory of oil prices will largely depend on China's economic recovery. Dudley also said that he doesn't expect oil prices to rise higher than their current levels. Take a look.
There is a shortage. There's a lack of investment in the oil and gas industry. That's certainly clear. But a lot of it depends on the pace of growth or slow growth or faster growth in China. Has a lot to do with the oil price right now. Some people around me are saying, well, $100 a barrel is quite possible here towards the end of the year. To me, again, it depends on the pace of Chinese growth, which could go either way. So I'm not really expecting them to rise much above where they are today.
Well, that's BP's former CEO Bob Dudley on crude oil prices. Now, the World Bank has forecast India's GDP growth to moderate to 6.3% this fiscal. The Global Financing Organization has attributed this to challenging external conditions and waning pent-up demand. However, it highlighted that despite the global challenges, India is one of the fastest-growing economies today. Auto sales are a mixed bag for the month of September. Sales of Maruti Suzuki below analyst estimates, with growth remaining in the low single digits. M&M has witnessed strong SUV sales. However, on the tractor segment, it has witnessed some weakness. Among the two-wheelers, Hero Motor and TVS's sales exceeded analyst estimates. Bajaj Auto sales fell owing to a higher base last year. Well, the big news maker tonight, Vedanta Resources Chairman Anil Agarwal has called the proposed six-way split of the company a win-win for all shareholders. Shares of Vedanta perked up in trade as investors hoped that the proposed demerger will in fact unlock value and that the company's promises will be delivered on. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Anil Agarwal said a strategic investor could be roped in for some of the company's businesses. He also played down fears over debt. Nigel D'Souza is standing by with the key highlights from the interview that he did with Agarwal. Nigel, sum up for us the big takeaways.
The big talking point today was Vedanta. And I spoke to the management, I spoke to Mr. Anil Agarwal, and there were 5 big takeaways. So let's run you through them. He believes that shareholders will have the flexibility with this entire restructuring process that he's announced. And he says that everyone will be on board because it's a win-win. So he believes that, in fact, the shareholders, the creditors, the government of India, everyone will give this particular announcement a thumbs up. Next up, he's talking about selling one of their assets. And this demerger is okay, but the bigger focus is going to be when they sell those assets. And he says that the steel asset will be sold. He's received plenty of interest. And by the end of this fiscal itself, that'll be out of their books, which is good news. Next up, he also says that besides the steel asset, well, he could be looking at bringing in strategic partners in some of the businesses, maybe in the copper business, maybe in the zinc business, or maybe in the oil and gas business as well, because he says, as of now, some of these businesses are not getting the real value. So that could be another option. Point number 4, which is very, very important. He says there's no need to worry with regard to Vedanta Resources debt payments. Remember, the street is a little bit worried because a couple of maturities come up, namely $1 billion in the month of January. And later on in 2024 as well, you have another $500 million or so. He says both those two are secure. They'll be either repaid or refinanced, but no worries in terms of a default. And finally, he says that from now on, creating shareholder wealth is priority. He's going to be looking at corporate governance. And also he says that all these businesses will be professionally run. So those are the 5 big takeaways coming in from that interview with Mr. Anil Agarwal. In fact, let's hear out what he had to tell me earlier today.
We have a phenomenal response for our steel and iron ore sale, which can be taken care of the entire debt. We believe that by March, we'll be able to complete that transaction too. Anybody want to produce green steel? This is the only site where we have a gas availability, complete infrastructure availability. As somebody want to produce 15 million ton, internationally, people are very keen to have some step into India. So this is the best opportunity for them. We have about $1 billion payment in January, and $500-600 million payment in August. Both are completely lined up. If you get a good terms, we will refinance. If otherwise, we will have enough cash. We can work out. But both are very, very open.
Well, that is Anil Agarwal there on the proposed restructuring. It's a big task, but hoping that they will be able to deliver on it. Now, there's more trouble for online gaming companies with tax officials knocking on their doors. Sources tell us that the Directorate General of GST Intelligence has sent tax notices to Dream11 and Games 24/7 demanding a whopping 49,000 crore rupees. Now, this move comes after the Maharashtra State GST authorities had served a similar notice to Dream11 demanding 18,000 crore rupees. In its notice, the DGGI Mumbai zone has said that Dream11 failed to submit the requisite documents despite many reminders. So this nightmare as far as GST is concerned continues for online gaming companies. Maruti Suzuki has received a draft assessment order from the tax department amounting to over 2,100 crore rupees. The tax demand dates back to FY20, where certain additions with respect to returned income have been proposed. The company says it will file its objections before the dispute resolution panel. Maruti has added that the assessment order will not have any impact on Maruti Suzuki's financial operations or other activities. And more tax. Bajaj Alliance has received a notice from GST authorities demanding over 1,000 crore rupees. The demand and show cause notice pertains to alleged non-payment of GST on insurance premiums relating to the period of July 2017 to March of 2022. Several insurance companies are under the GST scanner for alleged non-payment of taxes. Now, Abu Dhabi-based international holding company has increased its stake in Adani Enterprises to over 5%. IHC says it continues to explore unique investment opportunities in India with the goal to maximize stakeholder return. Remember, just last week, IHC entered a pact with a buyer to dispose of its investments in two Adani Group companies. That was Adani Green Energy and Adani Energy Solutions. The other big story this evening, HDFC Bank is revamping some parts of top management 3 months after its mega merger with HDFC. As per sources who say that the bank detailed the changes in a memo to employees late Sunday. Ritu standing by with the details. Ritu, take us through what these changes are. What is the rationale behind making these changes?
Well, Shireen, a major top management rejig, but an expected one at that after the HDFC merger with HDFC Bank. And the bank CEO, Shashidhar Jagdishar, saying that these changes were made to bring in a sharp focus to leverage what the bank has built because the runway for growth is large. Now, one of the biggest change comes in the form of a dedicated head for the mortgage business, which now forms almost 35% of the total loans. The former head of retail assets, Arvind Kapil, is now going to be spearheading it. Arvind Vora, who was previously looking at branch banking, is now going to be instead heading retail assets. Second, HDFC Bank veteran Ashish Parthasarathy is going to take on the responsibility for retail branch banking in addition to treasury. But importantly, branch banking business itself has been split into two region-wise and will primarily be driven by two other individuals reporting into Parthasarathy. This is important because HDFC Bank already has 8,000 branches and is looking to add 2,000 more every coming year. Thirdly, what is a clear step towards a bigger digital push, HDFC Bank's entire IT and digital function is going to be consolidated and directly report into the CEO. Ashima Bhatt has been tasked with creating a bank within a bank, which would essentially serve as a virtual relationship channel to service customers who may not necessarily need a physical touch point and help the bank meet its objective of creating a new HDFC Bank every 4 to 5 years. There's a new Chief Digital Experience Officer, a dedicated head for banking as a service, and all consumer-facing digital products are going to be clubbed into having their own separate P&L. There are other changes as well, but overall this means a sharper focus on retail and a bigger role for all things digital at HDFC Bank.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. That's the latest as far as HDFC Bank is concerned. Now, Walmart-backed Flipkart has stepped up its battle with Amazon in India. It's launched a subscription service at 499 rupees a year. The service will give users benefits like early access to sales, free same-day delivery in select cities, faster deliveries, and more. Cash-strapped Dunzo lands itself in thicker soup. The company's co-founder Dalveer Suri, who oversaw the B2B business, has quit the commerce startup. Only 2 of the co-founders are now left in the company. And in another development, sources have told CNBC-TV18 that Reliance Retail nominees have stepped down from the company's board. So trouble continues there for Dunzo. JSW Infrastructure makes a strong debut on Dalal Street. The stock listed at a premium of more than 20% over its IPO price of 119 rupees and gained further during the day. This is the first listing from the JSW Group stable in 13 years after JSW Energy listed in 2010. JSW Infra's public offer was subscribed by more than 37 times. Well, speaking of IPOs, here's a CNBC-TV18 analysis. 90% of Indian IPOs since 2022 have used a part of their proceeds to reduce debt or fulfill working capital requirements. Now, this trend is completely opposite to the earlier tradition where IPOs were used by companies to mop up equity capital to fund their future growth and expansion plans. Hormuz is standing by now to take us through what the data is telling us. So it is largely for debt repayment or working capital. That's what these IPOs are about.
You know, there was a time when the IPOs were used to fund capex plans of companies for their growth, expansion, but that priority seems to have changed over the last year or two. Now, we have taken a list of IPOs that came out starting 2022 till date, and there are a total of 75 such IPOs. Now, out of them, 14 IPOs are purely an offer for sale, so they are not taken into consideration because the company does not receive any money through that. Now, these 75 IPOs have raised over 91,000 crore rupees, of which almost 60,000 crore is through the offer for sale mechanism, while the rest comes from the fresh issue of shares. Now, this number is also skewed because of large IPOs like LIC. They had a 21,000 crore IPO, which was entirely an offer for sale. So, the number is skewed. Now, when we come to the remaining 61 IPOs, which were either a pure fresh issue of shares or a combination of a fresh issue and an offer for sale. Now, even in those 61 IPOs, 1/3 of them have the offer for sale component to be higher than the fresh issue, and the major highlight is that out of those 61 IPOs that we are considering, almost 90%, of which is 54 such companies, have highlighted that they are using the IPO proceeds, at least part of them, to repay debt or to fund working capital requirements, and 38 of those companies are using the proceeds for capital expansion or for acquisitions or inorganic growth. Now, coming to the 7 companies that did not use their proceeds to repay debt, and that includes companies like Delivery, Radiant Cash Management, Global Surfaces, SBFC Finance, and the recent listings like Rishabh Instruments and Yatra Online. So these are the 75 IPOs that we have analyzed so far starting 2022. The primary objective is to reduce debt, and there are more lined up for the rest of the year as well. So let's see what that brings in for the shareholders going forward.
All right, Hormuz, many thanks for joining us. Up next on India Business Hour, the Delhi police raids several journalists and commentators associated with media outlet Newsclick, registers cases under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act to probe the source of funding of the news website. You can catch CNBC-TV18's news and updates on WhatsApp, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram, and JioCinema. Well, here's a quick check of some of the national headlines that we're tracking this evening. 31 patients, including 16 infants, have died in the last 48 hours at a government hospital in Nanded in Maharashtra. The government has formed an inquiry committee to probe the deaths. The hospital has a capacity of 500 beds but was reportedly treating over 1,200 patients. Strong tremors jolted Delhi and parts of North India after multiple earthquakes struck Nepal. The second quake was of a magnitude of 6.2 on the Richter scale. Now, a special cell of the Delhi police has raided several journalists and commentators associated with media outlet Newsclick. Multiple locations in New Delhi and Mumbai were raided. The raids were in connection with an FIR filed under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act to probe the source of funding of the news website. Abhimanyu Sharma joins us now with more details. Abhimanyu, take us through what has transpired today. Why the raids?
Raids are underway at the Newsclick premises, but no arrests have been confirmed yet. Network 18 had earlier reported that the Enforcement Directorate had already conducted raids at the firm's premises over allegations of the portal receiving funds from China. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the Delhi Police's special cell is carrying out raids across 30 locations in the National Capital Region and is seizing evidence. Raids are being conducted on certain journalists and activists in connection with a case related to the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or the UAPA. The police is looking out for both electronic as well as documentary evidence and is seizing several laptops as well as mobile phones. Multiple police teams are involved in the raids and the investigation, and many individuals are being questioned. Meanwhile, journalist bodies like the Editors Guild of India and Digipub have expressed concern over these developments. Also, the people who are being questioned have also alleged vendetta, whereas the government has maintained that the investigation agencies are only doing their job as per law, and any further course of action, of course, would be determined based on the evidence which would be gathered in due course of investigation, both by the Delhi Police as well as the Enforcement Directorate.
Abhimanyu, many thanks. And as Abhimanyu was pointing out, media bodies expressed concern over the raids on Newsclick, and Journalists Editors Guild of India has referred to the raids, and I quote, as yet another attempt to muzzle the media. In a statement, the Guild said, and I quote again, the investigation of specific offences must not create a general atmosphere of intimidation under the shadow of draconian laws or impinge on the freedom of expression. The Press Club of India, meanwhile, has demanded that the government come out with details of the investigation. They held a protest meeting and resolved to continue to protest. Journalist bodies are defending media freedom. Other bodies like the National Alliance of Journalists also said that such an action, raiding and intimidating almost all employees in a media organization, was unheard of.
9 police persons came to my home in Gurgaon at 6:30 in the morning. They asked me various questions. I came with them voluntarily to this place, the special cell of the Delhi Police on Lodi Road. The same set of questions were asked over and over again. Am I an employee of Newsclick? I said no, I'm a consultant. After I came here, I learned there had been a first information report lodged, okay, apparently under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
हमारे घर पे पहुंचे, जहाँ पे हमारे पार्टी के साथी हमारे साथ रहते हैं, जिनका लड़का न्यूज़क्लिक में काम करता। ये क्यों मार रहे हैं छापा, क्या है कारण, क्या है चार्ज, इसके बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं। अब ये बता भी नहीं रहे कि किस लिए कर रहे हैं सब। ये हमला क्या मीडिया के ऊपर है, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन के ऊपर है, और इसीलिए दुनिया के अंदर वर्ल्ड फ्रीडम ऑफ प्रेस इंडेक्स में लगातार गिरावट होती जाती है, और एक तरफ से प्रचार होता है कि हम मदर ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी है।
देखिए, मुझे जस्टिफाई करने की जरूरत नहीं है। अगर किसी ने गलत किया है तो उसके ऊपर जांच एजेंसियां काम करती हैं, और ये कहीं नहीं लिखा कि आपके पास अगर गलत तरीके से पैसा आया होगा, आपत्तिजनक कोई कार्य होगा, तो उसके ऊपर कोई जांच एजेंसी कार्रवाई नहीं कर सकती। जांच एजेंसियां स्वतंत्र हैं, वो अपनी कार्रवाई नियमों को देखकर करती हैं।
In international headlines, shares of Evergrande surged as trading resumed following the suspension from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Shares of the property developer suspended after its billionaire founder came under the lens of Chinese authorities over unspecified charges. The stock has lost around 75% of its value since August. The criminal trial of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is underway in the U.S. District Court of Manhattan. The 31-year-old faces 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy in connection with the collapse of his crypto trading platform. Prosecutors are also expected to present evidence alleging that the FTX founder flouted campaign laws. If found guilty, Bankman-Fried could face over 100 years in federal prison. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella has testified against Google's search dominance, alleging that the tech major has used unfair tactics to ensure market dominance. Speaking at the antitrust trial against Google, Nadella argued that competitors cannot make any impact on the market as publishers and advertisers shape their content to Google's requirements. Apple has said it's working on fixing a software bug and an app issue for causing its latest iPhones to become too hot. to touch. The smartphone maker said that it would update the iOS 17 operating system that the iPhone 15 devices run on to fix a glitch that made the iPhones become warmer than expected. The company is also working with developers to make changes to apps that overload the system that could be causing the phones to overheat. Former BP CEO Bob Dudley has responded to the exit of his successor at the company, Bernard Looney. Now remember, just last month, Looney abruptly left the company for not disclosing a romantic relationship with colleagues. The Financial Times reported that Looney was accused of promoting women with whom he had undisclosed relationships, and these relationships occurred before he took helm at BP. Speaking with my colleague Parikshit Luthra, Bob Dudley, the former CEO of BP, said he was sad and surprised about the allegations. Dudley also said he did not know anything about the allegations when he was CEO. Take a look.
I'd like to ask you about the exit of Bernard Looney, the CEO, in light of undisclosed relationships from BP. Does this somehow put a question mark on appointments he had a say in and his decisions as the CEO of the company?
No, it's a big surprise. It's a little bit sad that it happened, but BP is a great company with great assets, great cash flows, lots and lots of good people. And the company is not dependent on one person, man or woman. So I'm not too concerned about it. They'll make some new decisions, they'll make some new appointments, and the company will just keep moving along. And I imagine with a little bit of time here, it'll be sort of an ancient history story. Certainly, I knew nothing about these allegations. I know my deputy CEO knew nothing about it, and I know the board knew nothing about it. So, I mean, I feel like I wish I had known, and maybe a little naive about it, but no, I think this just surprised everyone.
Well, that's the former BP CEO on the ouster of Bernard Looney from BP as CEO. 2 gold medals for India at the Asian Games today as female athletes continue to shine. Parul Chaudhary striking gold in the women's 5,000 meters. What a finish it was. And this comes a day after she won silver in the women's 3,000 meters steeplechase. Another remarkable win was for Anu Rani, who won gold in the women's javelin throw. Meanwhile, India picked up its first medal in the men's canoe double 1,000-meter category for the first time in 29 years. This takes India's overall tally to 69 medals, including 15 golds. And on that note, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Congratulations to all the athletes. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC-TV18.